On today's episode, we're going to talk NBA draft, Denver Nuggets, free agency, front office, and why are the Nuggets being so quiet for this offseason? We'll talk about it here on Locked On Nuggets.
You are Locked On Nuggets, your daily Denver Nuggets podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome into Locked On Nuggets, your daily Denver Nuggets podcast, part of the Locked On NBA Network, your team every day. Thank you so much for tuning into the show where we go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 days a week here on the Nuggets side of things. My name is Ryan Blackburn. I am the host over at Mile High Sports Pickaxe and Roll. He is Swipa, doing the Player's Choice, doing Swipa Cam YouTube channel, and just all around great, fantastic guy, sporting the new look. Swipa, how you doing?
I'm doing well. Good intro, Ryan Blackburn. Good intro.
Thank you.
Shout out. Appreciate that. Yep. Panelist of the year, Player's Choice. Shout out. I really appreciate. Well, first off, which bald guy are you talking about? Because there's currently 2 bald guys that work on Locked On Nuggets. So just let me know which one you're referencing. More than likely me. Been a great day. Getting ready for little bit of a mini vacation here. It's hot as crap here in Atlanta. It is humid and hot, especially as well. So I'm wearing my sun protection on the back of my neck when I walk my dog outside. But it's been a good day. I for one, will be having a busy summer. Yeah. Unlike the Denver Nuggets, who are saying that we're going to be operating in the weeds. Don't expect any trades. We're going to work on getting a shooter, a defender, and then possibly looks like hopefully a big on the cheap on the waiver wire. So we'll see. It's going to be a really fun episode. Ryan Blackburn, can't wait to get into it.
We will see what they do. But today's podcast, as you guys know, it's brought to you by good folks over at Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off your first purchase. So Swipe, but let's get into the weeds here. I wrote over at MHS about some of the comments that were made. Ben Tenzer, Executive Vice President of Basketball Operations, shared with local media. I think there were some situations in the first round and second round. It was close. We had our targets. We looked hard at those targets, had to evaluate where we could get to. Could we get there? It's tricky, but I would say we were moderately close in a couple different scenarios. The one thing that every NBA franchise loves to hear, and every fan base loves to hear, is that, if nothing happened, at least we were close on something that happened. And honestly, I understand that sentiment from the fan base too, because when you think about trades, when you think about additions, you want to at least know that the team was trying to get better. And so if that is actually true, then great. I kind of have a sentiment that they weren't actually that close on a lot of these things, but they had limited resources. I wasn't expecting them to get into the draft. Were you?
Well, based on their organizational philosophy for the last 2 years, I did have some belief they would try, because they have prioritized having young players on the roster and cultivating internal development, which Josh Kroenke also illuminated. And this is prior to this last recent press conference. He said this 2 press conferences ago, that internal development is going to be a huge story and kind of how they're moving forward. So with that, I thought they would try to make a move to get a player that they would like, but they decide not to. They believe, it seems, Ryan, they need older, more developed players who have been in the league to take up some of those bench rotation spots, which, who would have thought? You need older 25 and up players to kind of make up for some of the differences on your roster. So I did not expect them to do much. I was curious, though. They had been so deathly silent. Is there a world in which they made a trade with one of the players? Now, what was funny is you saw the Brooklyn Nets. When we went into this draft, Ryan, I remember saying, man, I would hope that the Brooklyn Nets, I don't think they're going to use all 5 of their picks. The Nuggets should try to target the 19 and beyond, 19, 22, and another one that they had to see if they could maybe get off one of those picks. They didn't do that, but you see a team like Brooklyn that is so young, trying to develop. They take 5 rookies because they have an organizational philosophy they're sticking to. So what I saw in the draft, Ryan, a lot of people that are also in the draft, they wanted to get young because they feel like they're either trying to work towards something in the future or to solidify things on the margin. But just like you, watching certain teams that aren't that, they're not super far ahead in their process, rely on young guys as much as the Nuggets have in the last couple years. Again, I do think that points to some of the issues that we were running into for the last couple seasons.
It's tough. Like comparing Denver to Brooklyn, of course, is pretty tough because they have 2 guys on their roster and then they drafted 5 first-round picks, and people are wondering, why did you draft 5 guys in the first round? Well,
Right.
It's not like they had much. They didn't have a lot of other things that they could have tried to do. They
Right.
probably wanted to trade up, and there were some reasons to trade up and maybe condense some of those picks. But ultimately, that they couldn't do that because the price was pretty high. And then obviously they probably didn't want to go the other way and get worse talent later in the draft or not even deferred into the future. They like to get some young guys into their pipeline. So I understand why a team like Brooklyn did that. And also, we've talked about this, I understand why Denver didn't get involved either. They have 12 roster players. Currently, they have 15 total roster spots. They've got 3 spots that are open. They might bring back Russell Westbrook. They might bring back DeAndre Jordan. They might bring back Vlatko Cancar. They're probably not going to bring back all 3 of those guys, that's for sure. So what they're going to do is use those other open spots for veteran talents. You do not want to use it on a 20-year-old who's not ready to contribute for another 3 years.
Well, Ryan, throwing it back to you a little bit, do you think any of those guys should be brought back based on what the needs of Denver are at this point?
I don't think so. I have them very, very, very low on the totem pole. You can justify, I don't think you can justify Vlatko really in any sense other than he is a close relationship with Nikola. But I would say that if you're looking for the most on-court production, you bring back Russ, and I could understand why they would do that. If you're looking for just a stabilizer as a 7-footer that you don't have to go to on a consistent basis in DeAndre, a good veteran presence, I can understand that. But here's the thing. If you had DeAndre and you just didn't have Dario, wouldn't that make a little bit more sense? So maybe that is the choice. Maybe they find a way to flip Dario for another veteran and then bring back DeAndre in his place. So there is some logic in doing so, but I don't know if I would want to if I were Denver. I kind of think they need new blood in there.
Isn't it so funny that they could have given Russ the taxpayer MLE last year and it would have made even then would have been a gross underpay.
It would have felt so much better than giving Dario the TPMLE. And honestly, during the middle of the season, that's kind of how I flipped it in my head. I was basically like, you know what? They actually gave Russ the taxpayer MLE and they gave Dario a minimum. And if you quantify it like that it feels a little bit better. But obviously, that's kind of where Denver's about to get to for this next year. And if their minimum doesn't work out and their TPMLE does, you're probably back in the same place that you are, which is why I just don't understand the direction that they're going.
So I am not at this point. I think, Ryan, if they were to bring back Russell Westbrook and DeAndre Jordan and only one new player, that would just be such a miss from what they need. At that point, you're just running it back with basically the same rotation and one additional player. I just think they need new blood. They need new insight. They need a new kind of player in the building. In the second segment, I'll kind of like to talk about some of the players that could potentially fit some of those roles based on the money that they have available. But that taxpayer MLE, Russ wouldn't get that. It's not like he would get another veteran minimum, maybe another year tacked onto that. Who knows? But that $5.7 million they have available, Ryan, that has to be really for the first time since 2022. I would say in 23, Reggie Jackson, he was really good with that for the first part of the year. But since 2022, they have to get a real rotational player in that slot to be able to play heavy minutes, because that's what they need, given the fact they're not making trades and they really, truly just want to make sure they're working on the margins.
Well, in the next segment, I'm going to throw Swipa some guys. I'm going to throw him some different ideas that we're going to discuss, and maybe based off of some of the comments that the front office made last night. We will talk about it next here on Locked On Nuggets. Oh, I guess I'm gonna do the read now, aren't I? Let me just pull up the
When I found out that Skims was making underwear for men, Ryan Blackburn, can't believe it. I love me some Skims, y'all. Man, I've heard so much about their quality from friends and family, so I had to give it a try. Let me tell you, it lives up to the hype. Now, I've always had issues with underwear. Fit, comfort, or just finding the right style for me. Now, Skims changed all that. Their men's line offers something for everyone from boxer briefs to classic briefs, all designed with the perfect balance of comfort and style. Now, I tried the Skims. They're nice, like stretch 5 boxer brief. They feel really good. They move with your body. You can work out with them. You can just get dressed, go on a date with them, just do day-to-day stuff. They're great. They're perfect for my active lifestyle. They move with me, never lose their shape, and they stay in place all day. Now, whether I'm working out or just running errands, they're the most comfortable and reliable underwear I've ever owned. Plus, the lightweight material feels amazing, almost like you're wearing nothing at all. Now, shop SKIMS Mens at skims.com. Let them know we sent you. After you place your order, select podcast in the survey and select my show in the drop-down menu that follows. Make sure y'all tap in the Skims. Let's get to it, y'all.
We're back at
it.
It's not
everybody like boo Ryan Blackburn. Boo.
We definitely didn't discuss this before the podcast.
I tried to hand him the keys, and he was just like, "No, I got it. I got it." Look at this. Look at this. Look at this. Look at this. Talk about now. The reasons I watch this show: 1, Jokic news; 2, Swipa talking about his undies.
That's the only reason I do this show, so it's okay.
Look, Ryan, my friend, you have to do something. That's what I'm saying. Why y'all felt?
Ain't no way, dog. Ain't no. We are not doing this. Okay. Back at it, pickaxe. Oh, God, it's not even pickaxe. It's Locked On Nuggets. Thank you so much for tuning into the show. Hit
Dario, I need your help.
Okay, let's get in on this. You wanted to talk about some free agents, some guys. I wanted to let me pull up, back up my article again, which I wrote for last night. Actually, it came out this morning. Basically, John Wallace rattled off a variety of different things, traits that the Nuggets are hoping to add in free agency. His direct quote: bench depth, I've said it before, some more scoring on that second unit. Shooting obviously is one of the needs. And if we can, also try to find better point of attack defenders, try to get the bench to support our starting lineup.
Yeah.
It's going to be interesting to see whether they can satisfy all of those things with 3 free agents, including 2 minimums.
Can I ask you real quick, and then we can get into that?
Yeah.
What are your I feel like I'm noticing a pattern here now, because after the 2 press conferences we have, does it feel like John Wallace is kind of he's heavily overseeing the player side and maybe the talent acquisition side of the GM responsibility?
Oh yeah, and honestly, that's why they divvied up the roles the way that they do. They did executive vice president of basketball operations for Ben Tenzer, and they did executive vice president of player personnel for John Wallace. I think what you can really do there is kind of separate those into 2 different, one of them is the VP of business and one of them is the VP of basketball. And that's how I would really kind of describe those 2 things. Both are very important within the grand scheme of things. People won't see all of the things that Ben Tenzer does behind the scenes, but they are important things. This is as simple as coordinating hotels and coordinating travel and things like that. Those things do matter. And it's not like you don't always want your main basketball personnel guys having to deal with stuff like that, but usually it's just one job. So glad to see that. I actually do think that it can work the way that they have things settled in. And I think both guys are pretty intelligent. It's just going to be about whether they are given the keys in order to make the right moves, in order to make the right changes. Because I kind of think the dictation from the top is that you're going to run it back. You're going to stay under the second tax apron. You're going to do these things, and these things, and let that be it. And like, that's kind of where we're at with this.
Look, now I do think based on where the Nuggets are, again, everybody, I want people to remember as you're thinking about this. Now, it doesn't mean these players are going to be here. Gary Trent Jr. was a minimum signing. I mean, basically got nothing. Like nothing. Got like I think he got $5 million, I think, last year. I think it's the money that he got exactly, if I remember the exact number. They didn't get a lot for Justin Holiday. I mean, he was a veteran signing, late veteran signing. But Ryan, I'm saying that if they had just even those two players last season, I think that the season looks different. I think the playoffs look different. They just have to have players that can do specific things and help in real minutes, and especially the non-Jokic minutes, or even now because of where the NBA is with the defense, Ryan, you even need players to be around Jokic that can spread the floor out. That way you can't just collapse on him inside of the paint like they did this year. And I think that should be the biggest indictment for where the roster is, Ryan. I feel like John Wallace, which he probably has already, rewatch those games. Rewatch the Clipper series. Rewatch the Thunder series. One of the easiest takeaways is like Jokic struggled to score in several games this playoffs. Well, what's happening? Well, there's no space. Like there's nowhere for him to go, and they're loading up the box. And if I'm John, I'm like, oh, okay, shooter, or meaning Murray, MPJ, another shooter, Aaron Gordon. Let's call it a day. Now do it. Now load up and see what you can do and pack the paint like the Lakers did early in the year. Everybody thought the Lakers were going to go to the conference finals because they played that gimmicky defense versus Denver. You know, in that one game they beat them. Everybody thought, oh my gosh, the Lakers have solved Denver. So I think, Ryan, I like what I'm hearing from John Wallace. I think John Wallace has his eye on the ball. Yeah.
I also think that little sidebar, I think it was kind of an indictment on the Nuggets depth that Christian was playing 36 minutes a night, that Michael, especially in the playoffs, that Michael Porter, even with the hurt shoulder, was playing as much as he was.
Right.
It's not about like the quality of players. It's that they are so like forced to do so much in like adverse circumstances. Like Denver should be able to put these guys into better positions to succeed with better depth. And that's what they're hoping to do. Let me just read off some things here real quick. The players that I talked about earlier today on Pickaxe, free agents that should be relatively efficient, that should be relatively cheap overall, and that could fill in a need. I put out some names here. Trey Mann, Chris Boucher, Sandro Mamukelashvili, Malcolm Brogdon, Kevin Porter Jr. Those were the guys that I had as like their top scorers that are kind of like a per-minute scorer in free agency, just based off of some quick research and quick look. Those are the kinds of names that you're thinking about when you think about scoring, because it's such a premium. Mm-hmm. Like you're not going to get the top of the top with that. Do you think that Denver should be focusing on scorers coming off the bench? Because I kind of don't. I think I'd rather have shooting and defense.
Well, I think it's tough because Russell, for all the things last year, one of the things he did do, the constant scoring pressure that he could put on the team, I think made a difference. And if they don't have his 11, 12, 13, 14 points a game, who's scoring? You know, where's that coming from? And I do think it matters that if you had a 6 scorer coming off the bench, that would open up a lot of opportunities and really self-created scoring. That is just a premium. You know, it's hard to find players that can create consistently and find looks for themselves. So I do think scoring would matter here. The shooting thing for me is, would you also then say like when you're looking for a scoring archetype, you're really looking for a player that can dribble as well, like somebody that can actually use the basketball and open up lanes? And I think for a shooter, shooters aren't necessarily that. Like shooters are kind of more off-ball players that don't necessarily do that. I do think you kind of need somebody who can at least dribble and also has the option to be able to score and drive. So I understand, I think, what John Wallace is saying there.
Oh, yeah. And I think all the guys that I listed can put the ball on the deck. Surprisingly, Boucher and Mamukelashvili can too. I kid you not, man. Like Mamu, very much like he was horrible defensively in San Antonio, and that might be the reason why you don't add him. But if you're trying to get through a regular season and lift up the bench offense, run pick and pop 5 with him. Like just do that. Especially if it's like Jalen Pickett, he's going to set the table for somebody like that. So that's my new agenda at this point, and I can't believe I'm saying that. But like if it's more of a traditional off the dribble scorer, Malcolm Brogdon, Trey Mann, I think those guys are worth talking about. Shooters, Sam Merrill from Cleveland, Alec Burks, Aaron Holiday is going to get re-upped, but Gary Trent Jr. is a great name that you put out there. Doug McDermott also, like if you're just looking for a regular season guy just to get through the year, I wouldn't be mad at that. And then perimeter attack defenders, perimeter point of attack defenders. Davion Mitchell, probably going back to Miami, but DeAnthony Melton, Gary Harris, Gary Payton II, and DeLon Wright. Like these are your kinds of guys that you're thinking of point of attack. I didn't list a lot of bigs there, and there's not a lot of like if Denver doesn't have like you're not going to find a whole bunch of scoring and point of attack and shooting from the center position. So they might have to just bite the bullet and just get a big body down there. But I don't know, lots of questions and not a lot of spots that they have to fill those needs.
What would be your ideal 3 based on the list you provided, and who gets what money?
I kind of like Mamu as a minimum guy. Like if they could swing it, I like DeAnthony Melton as a perimeter defender, somebody who's a 3-and-D guy. And then if I'm going for more of a outside shooter at that, well, I mean, Melton can do that too. Give me Malcolm Brogdon if you can. Like Malcolm Brogdon would be ideal if you're looking for a veteran in the room who can lead a second unit and knows what he's doing. Like Malcolm Brogdon, DeAnthony Melton, Sandro Mamukelashvili. That would be my ideal 3.
Well, based on this list that you provided, curious about Trey Mann. It will probably be Chris Boucher, I think, on this list, just because of the athleticism, I think the creation ability, plus just the defensive upside there, just because of the length and the verticality. And then maybe I would feel comfortable with Aaron Holiday. You know, I like Aaron Holiday. I think he's a good player. Again, that's another cheap player that you can add to the roster. And then if you want to add another player, Gary Payton II is really good in certain iterations. I think he would fit well. He's also pretty young, so that's another player you can trust. DeLon Wright's a little bit older. DeAnthony Melton's a little bit older. So if I had to pick between this, let's probably be Gary Payton. So you get Gary Payton, you get Chris Boucher added to this team, and then I think Aaron Holiday will be a nice little get off the bench as well.
Kind of think Houston's just going to bring him back. There was a Shams thing that came out earlier today where he had that, but you're probably not getting all 3 of those guys. You're probably getting one of them because that's for the taxpayer MLE, and then you're getting 1 or 2 other minimums at that point. So we'll see what kind of flexibility Denver has in order to get it. But those are the kinds of skill sets that I think that they're going to prioritize based off of what John Wallace and Ben Tenzer have been talking about. So we will see. Everybody, let's take one more break. When we come back, we're going to ask, I'm going to ask Swipa about Tamar Bates really briefly, and then we'll go around the NBA, any other interesting teams and what they're making happen. We'll be right back here on Locked On Nuggets.
Now, have you ever decided at the last minute to head to a ball game with friends or with family? Maybe it's game day and you suddenly realize you want to be in the stand. That's exactly where Gametime comes in. It's the easiest way to grab last minute tickets without the stress. With the money you save on tickets, you can splurge on food, drinks, merch, or even invite a bigger group to come with you. Gametime makes it possible. Now, Gametime makes buying tickets fast and simple. Prices on the app actually drop the closer you get to the first pitch, and they've got incredible last-minute deals, clear seat views, and lowest price guarantee that takes the worry out of buying. Now, Gametime is the official ticketing partner of Locked On MLB, making it easy to browse the app for an exciting upcoming MLB game. Everybody knows I'm in Atlanta. We're already looking at Braves tickets for next weekend. I cannot wait to go. They're getting ready to play the Mets here soon. We're looking on Gametime, trying to find the best pricing, best seating, and trust me, it made the process so much easier to have like this all-in-one view of the seat, the price, and everything that you need to know before you get out of the app. So take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOC, KEDONNBA for $20 off. Download the Gametime app today. Last minute tickets, lowest price, guaranteed. We'll be right back for the final segment here. Locked On Nuggets. Kadoosh.
All right, we are back. Locked On Nuggets, final segment here. Really briefly on the two-way situation. Tamar Bates was signed last night. He had a really nice message to the folks that came out and watched the draft with him in Missouri. Obviously, he's a University of Missouri guy. Josh Kroenke's a University of Missouri guy. That connection is going to be made real quick. Swipa?
People in the chat. We have new people here. They don't know who is. Ryan Blackburn. Somebody said, which one is Ryan? The white guy. And then this is Swipa. Name tags also say that as well. It's good to meet you. You know, we have so many new people that are a part of the show. So thank you so much for being here.
Thanks for having us, guys. Always appreciate new folks coming in.
Make sure also on YouTube, go ahead and give us a like, share, and subscribe. We're on the way to 15,000 subscribers. Make sure, if you're listening to this on Apple, iTunes, Spotify, give us a 5-star review. The more and more people that listen and watch this show, the better the content gets and the more that we can do for you. And we love being here for you every single day.
Always appreciate you, folks. Going to be very interesting to see where Denver goes from here. Two notes on the two-way guys. Tamar Bates signed a two-way with Denver and just got word that Trey Alexander not going to be back with the Nuggets for next year. So I thought that he might be, but when Tamar Bates was signed, that at least put a thought in my head that they might be choosing him over Trey. I like Trey Alexander. I thought that was a good swing that they made. Ultimately, they're not going that direction, and it's too bad. I just don't think he shot it well enough during the regular season for Denver last year. But hopefully Tamar Bates does that.
Yeah, it's tough, man. Like trying to find undrafted players in the league that can help you. I think Austin Reeves immediately, Naj Reed. Those are two other ones as well. Like they just weren't drafted for whatever reason. But they found their role. And remember, Austin Reeves, Nuggets fans, we got the first introduction to Reeves. 21-22, Jokic's, 2,000, 1,500 year. Reeves, no Jokic in that game, has a triple-double.
Oh, yeah, I forgot about
in the last game of the year, basically. And everybody's just kind of like, man, like this kid is flying. These Nuggets, you're terrible. What's going on? Why are you letting this random white guy just cook you? And then it just turns out that Austin Reeves is a baller. So, I mean, you can find some of those guys. And I don't know that, the Denver Broncos are really famous for this, Ryan Blackburn. If you're not familiar, they find undrafted players all of the time. And that's just kind of a part of their identity. It's really hard to do in basketball because there's so many things that go into what makes a player better and able to fit in certain situations. But again, he's a 6'5", kind of a two-way player, good shooter, ideally has some defensive chops. And on top of that, got some stuff he can do off the dribble, creating, getting downhill. So he is a player that could potentially end up being something for this team, but I have absolutely no hopes that he's going to do that this year in any way.
Yeah, putting that expectation on anybody would be ludicrous, but it is like we'll see whether Spencer Jones, PJ Hall, whether those guys get an option to come back. Like they said last night at the presser that some of those guys would be back. So we will see whether that means both of Spencer Jones and PJ Hall or just one of them. Outside of the Nuggets, like we've laid out, they're not going to make big trades. They're going to sign free agents. They're mostly running it back. We could make us think about it. It is what it is at this point. We're not going to overly overdo it on that front. We'll say our piece, and we will continue to say our piece about how we don't think it's the right call for them to do so. But like that is what they're thinking. Outside of the Nuggets, let's wrap up with this. What is the one team or two teams that you look at after the draft, after some of the moves that have been made, and think, I'm really interested in what they're doing?
Oh, the Spurs.
Yeah.
The Spurs young core, y'all, with Victor Wembanyama, Dylan Harper, Stephon Castle, and Devin Vassell for me. I think that's going to cook. I think Dylan Harper is going to be really good. I think that having him next to Stephon Castle going forward. And I am a Devin Vassell believer. Not everyone is. But again, that's another really good option to have on the wing. So Dylan Harper, Stephon Castle, and Devin Vassell are your like 1 through 3 with Victor Wembanyama. And then that's not including Jeremy Sohan, who again, ideally can become a true 4 in this league and a tween 4, ball handling 4. I love the direction the Spurs are headed in. You know what? I also like the 76ers a lot. You know, I don't think Embiid's a part of that timeline just because he's kind of obviously aged out of that. But Tyrese Maxey, Jared McCain, VJ Edgecombe, like they're cooking. Like I think they have like a really nice platform they're building from. And now you add in Quentin Grimes. They have really, I think, a modern look to continue to help them to move forward, man. So the 76ers and the Spurs both caught my eye.
Any opportunity that the Spurs have to just continue to build and build and build, they're going to take. It does feel like they're, rather than accelerating the timeline, they're doing the slow build, and that's probably the right call. Like Wemby's still in his monk phase, man. He's going to be just fine, taking his time and becoming the best version of himself over time. He's already a superstar. There's no question about that. You don't want to rush these things. I do think that this was another year that they have the luxury to be able to do that. Next, like 2026, 27 is when you'll really probably start to see them take off and become a true threat. But they'll probably get into the playoffs this next year, and they will probably upset somebody. That's my expectation with where they're at. If not, like they'll just get the experience that they need. Sixers is an interesting one. They're still on the 2 timelines with Embiid and Paul George.
Once that first timeline is done, bro, that's going to be a crazy guard core, dog.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. Like that's what you want. Like you can play all 3 of those guys together, or 2 of the 3 at the same time, and just have just a relentless amount.
BJ Edgecombe and Tyrese Maxey, dog. What are we? And then Jared McCain, with Grimes coming off the bench. What are we doing?
Yeah, it's gonna be fun. Like that's what you're looking for if you're Philly. So we'll see what happens once they kind of get free of themselves and they get free of the contracts that they are beholden to. Like that'll make things more interesting. But I do think that if those guys accelerate and then they get lucky with a healthy Embiid season, a healthy Paul George season, then
especially in this next West,
the
Eastern Conference,
East is like it's just an absolute tire fire right now. So who knows?
By the way, I want to shout this out too: Bub Carrington, CJ McCollum, Chris Middleton, Bilal Coulibaly, Alex Sarr, but they got Trey Johnson, they got Keyshawn George on that roster and such as well. Don't look now, but $100 million in cap space next year for the Washington Wizards. They might be off to the best. This will be the best situated they have been since the John Wall era. That's how long it's been for Washington. And I think they're 1 or 2 moves and another year away, I think, from truly becoming a special player. I think Bilal, I think that having Alexander Sarr and I'll say Trey Johnson with Bub Carrington, that's a nice core to work with, and you got money. Let's rock.
Are you ready for Kevin Durant to sign back there next offseason?
No, he's going to be with the Rockets, bro. He's going to be with the Rockets. Shout out to them too, though.
I'm just saying. All right, everybody, that's going to do it for this episode of Locked On Nuggets. Thank you so much for tuning into the show. It's been a fun one. Swipa, it's been good. Next week, when we get back together, maybe there's some new free agency additions that we can talk about. Free agency, everybody, opens up on Monday. That's when you'll start to hear about all of the deals, but there will be plenty of rumors before then. Matt and I will be together on Sunday night, but if there's anything that happens, we will adjust our schedule to make sure that we are giving you guys as much opportunity to talk about it as possible. Everybody have a great weekend. Thank you so much for tuning into this episode of Locked On Nuggets.